Hi everyone, and welcome to the holiday edition of the Maritime Ceramics YouTube video channel. Look, let's be honest, I'm about to share some of my favorite tools with you, but I'm not really doing this for you. I'm doing it for your partners, your spouses, your kids, your parents, that I'm sure are in the room with you and listening intently to try and pick up some ideas of what to buy their Potter loved one for Christmas. So listen in, family and friends, because this one is for you too. And before I get started, I just want to touch on something. You will see around me a very messy studio. I have been sick all week, and I thought about, rearranging the studio so that it looks nice and it's not a distracting background for you. But let's be honest, it's the holiday season and all of our studios look like this. So I feel like, let's just be comfortable together and hang out in the studio and talk about some of our favorite tools. So let's get started. These are in no particular order. I literally have just piled my favorite tools here and I will pick them up and tell them to you. So don't think that the ones I talk about first are necessarily my most favorite ones. I really use all of these all the time in my practice. So I will start with this one. And again, I have not cleaned any of these, so apologies. But look, potters, you look at these all the time, right? It's okay. We're among friends. This is Mudtools. I think they call it a shredder. Look, it doesn't need to be Mudtools specifically, but this little shredder is super useful for trimming. So I use this to do probably 90% of my trimming. I get all of the large amounts, especially, when you're making a bowl and you've got all of that extra clay at the bottom that you need to get off because you've left it in there for the support when you threw the bowl. So I use this to get that bulk off, and then I'll go in with, and I didn't actually include a trimming tool here, I'll go in with a trimming tool and clean it up. So this saves your trimming tools from getting dull too quickly. It's quick, it's efficient, and it doesn't dig in, right? So, sometimes when you're using the trimming tool, why do I not have one here? Sometimes you're using a trimming tool and you've got it, on the pot, and then it kind of like digs in, and then all of a sudden you got a big chunk out of your pot. Well, this doesn't do that. So that is one of the things I appreciate about it the most. It's also kind of fun to use. So Mudtools, or whatever brand you can find, shredder tool. Sometimes they call it a Sureform tool. I think you can actually get them at the hardware store. Again, for trimming, we're really going backwards here, but whatever, that's fine. For trimming, this is a spinner tool. So the top spins independently of the bottom, and it has a level on the top. And this is from Xiem tools. I'm probably saying that wrong. I should really look that up. Anyway, you can buy these all over the place. I like this one because the little level is helpful for making sure that the top of your pot is actually flat. Just as simple as that, really. I also use the little level when I'm using a chuck to trim, because when you have a chuck, so if you've got a chuck and you've got your pot in there, the first thing to do, or the first thing that I do anyway, if you've got a better way to do this, tell me, because this is my least favorite part of trimming. The cat doesn't like it either. The first thing to do is to make sure it's level inside the chuck, and then you secure it, and then you center that whole thing, if that makes sense. So I use this all the time. And then it also just helps to save your fingers, right? Because you can put pressure on the top of the thing that you're trimming to hold it down on the batt or your Giffen grip or whatever, and the bottom spins on its own. And I will put links to as many of these as I can find down in the comments. Sorry, my cat's hanging around and she's not happy. Nobody's paying attention to her. Okay, so holes. If you put holes in anything, like you're making plant pots and you need a hole in the bottom, or you're making Christmas tree luminaries, or you're making, this is a pendant, so there's a hole in the top of that. This is what I reach for. So I do have one of those regular hole cutters that kind of came with like the kit that I started with, but it clogs up with clay really easily. Drives me crazy. And it only makes one size hole. So this thing I love because you can use just the tip of it and get, you know, a tiny little hole for something like a pendant. Or if you put it in, yeah, nobody paying attention to you? Come here, come here. Oh, yeah, you hang out here. Help me tell people about pottery tools. Okay, so if you put this in further, then you obviously get a wider diameter of a hole. So it's really flexible. It does not clog up with clay. I use this all the time. Love it. So highly recommend. I think this is made by Frima, but I'm not sure. Again, staying with the trimming and decorating, this is again from Xiem Tools. Again, I really need to look that up and see how it's properly pronounced. There's a whole series of these, different shaped ends. And what I love about these tools is twofold. One, they're super, super sharp and they don't seem to be dulling. I've been using them on my red clay, which has grog in it, and they seem to be holding up pretty well. The other thing I love about it is that this is squishy. So as you are, do I need to get rid of you? Need to put you in the house? I guess so, yes, okay. Okay, we'll try this once more. Okay, where was I? Squishy, right. So the barrel of this is squishy, and what that means is that if you're spending a long time carving, it's just a lot easier on the fingers, right? Because it's not hard, it's not creating pressure points in your fingers. So really, really like these. Stick, is that all the trimming stuff? Yeah, okay, but we're working backwards, I guess. Not quite, because glazing comes after trimming. Whatever. Glazing. I just watched a video a lot like this one that was done by Three Little Potters. And it was really interesting because she was saying that she really doesn't like these brushes, the ones that hold lots and lots of glaze. And she had reasons that make perfect sense. I disagree, but I disagree because of the kind of glazing that I do. Excuse me while I put the cat away. Okay. I disagree because of the kind of glazing that I do. So she does a lot of layered glazes where I think it's much more forgiving if you have streaks or uneven application, right? It just kind of adds an extra dimension if you're doing that kind of layering. A lot of the glazing that I do is with a single glaze, and I actually use a fair amount of Celadon glazes, and they are translucent, and they will show every single brushstroke that you make. So these brushes, they hold a lot of glaze, and they make a really smooth, even application of glaze. And I find that's really, really important, especially for those Celadons. I do have kind of the same kind of brushes that she was talking about. I use them sometimes, but not very often. They just, I don't know, it takes a lot longer, I guess. If you have a forgiving glaze, it still takes longer. And then if you have an unforgiving glaze like a Celadon, they just don't work for me. This is a Mayco fan brush. I'm sure there are other kinds that are awesome, but these are my favorite ones that I have found so far because they do hold lots of glaze and the little bristles don't seem to fall out, which is a problem with some of the other ones I've tried. Calipers. Okay, so spouses, partners, children, parents, whoever is in the room. If your potter does not have a set of calipers, buy them a set of calipers. They're not expensive, but they're super, super useful. So what people mostly use calipers for is making lids. So you take the pot, you've thrown the bottom part of the pot, and you're going to make the lid. And you measure the bottom part of the pot. You can do it whichever way you want. You want to measure the inside, then this will give you kind of the outside dimensions that you need. This one doesn't work perfectly because it's obviously meant for a screw-on lid. Anyway, this is the typical use for the calipers. What I also use them for is if I am making things like soap dispensers. Okay, so with a soap dispenser, actually, what I do is I measure the top of it. Then I take a ruler. Do I have a ruler? Okay, I can't find my ruler right now, but I'll take measuring tape, same thing, right? So you take that, you get your measurement, and then you figure out how wide you need to make your pot to fit that dimension when it's dry. Because of shrinkage, it's not the same size. Anyway, so you figure that out, and then I usually use this end, and I adjust my calipers to whatever that measurement is. And then I can use this and measure the tops of my pots. The reason this is better than a ruler is twofold. One is that you can actually put it right inside and get that precise measurement instead of kind of eyeballing it. But the other one is we're working with clay, right? So our hands are always covered in clay. So every time you pick up a ruler, even if it's a plastic see-through ruler, and I speak from experience, you can't see through it because it's covered with clay. So these you can use no matter how much clay is on them, they're still going to measure. The only thing you need to be careful about is that they don't move while you're using them. And there's a little wing nut there to tighten them up. So calipers. I don't think it matters which calipers you get. These happen to be from the ceramic shop, but I think a caliper is just a caliper. Although I have seen one that you can adjust to account for shrinkage rates. So if you have a dry pot and you've broken the lid, you can figure out how wide of a lid you need to make for it. But I haven't used that, so I can't speak to how well they work. Okay, moving on. Potters, this one is for you because this one is free. Well, almost free. I have a YouTube short on exactly how I made this. So if you're interested, go look it up. But it is very literally a chopstick, a bamboo chopstick left over from some takeaway, and a little piece of a sponge that I cut out of a big car sponge that I bought from the dollar store, some hot glue, and a little tape for good measure. And you have yourself a sponge on a stick to sponge out the inside of your cups and so on when you can't reach down in there. Use this all the time. Super easy to make, no point in paying for it. Oh, I got another one. See? Use it all the time. It's covered in clay. Okay, ribs. They are a potter's best friend, I think. And this company makes my favorite ribs. So these are ribs from Wattle and Daub, and it's a company here in New Brunswick, Canada. And they make these from ethically sourced trees. If memory serves, they might be like trees that have just fallen down in their woods. But I'm not going to swear to that. I kind of feel like that's where they come from, but I could be wrong. Anyway, so they make them themselves here in New Brunswick, and they're made out of hardwood, and they feel nice, and they're light, and they're well made. I've been using these for over a year, and they look pretty much, other than, the clay that's all over them, which is me, pretty much like the day that I bought them. And these are my two favorites. I have a few from them. This one I use all the time because it's got a nice pointy end, so you can get in at the bottom of the pot. It's got a nice rounded end, so sometimes I'll use it for the inside of bowls. And it's also got a bit of a straight edge. So it's kind of got all of the curves and non-curves that you need when you're throwing a pot. The only thing this really doesn't do particularly well is compress the bottom after you've opened your pot. I use kind of a cheapo, flat-edged rib like we all have for that, or I just use my fingers to do that. So I use this one a ton. And I use this one a little less often, only because I don't make a whole lot of bowls, but it is great for, getting that nice consistent, what would you call it? Swoop on the inside of the bowl. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean. So you can use it kind of this way or, this way, and it just has different angles for the inside of the bowl. The other thing that I have used it for is if I'm making a cup and I just kind of want a little bump, I'll use it for that as well. So this is the kidney shape and this is the teardrop shape, and they are from Wattle and Daub here in New Brunswick. And they are lovely, lovely people. The next thing I want to talk about is a 6-inch tile. Not really. Hold on. There's another part to that. This is actually what I want to talk about. There are pros and cons to this batt system, so I'll walk you through all of them. I have a little bit of a hate-love relationship with this, but the tiles, and these are just 6-inch bisque tiles. I bought this from Pottery Supply House. I think it's actually made by Pottery Supply House. Euclid's, maybe? I'm not 100% on that, but anyway, that's where I bought it, Pottery Supply House in Oakville, Ontario. And they also sell the 6-inch tiles. These, however, I bought from, I think, Sounding Stone, because in between my initial purchase and when I realized, you know what, I'm going to make a business out of pottery, the cost of the tiles doubled, possibly a little bit more than doubled. And the difference between $3 a tile and $6 a tile or $6.50 a tile doesn't seem like a lot until you buy a whole swack of them. And then it starts to add up. So I got these from Sounding Stone because they happen to have less expensive ones at that moment. And very simple, the tile fits in and you throw your pot, you pop out the tile, pop in a new tile, off you go. These are 6 inches wide, so if you are throwing something wider than 6 inches, this is not going to work for that. I use this for spoon rests because you really don't want to be taking, like, if you wire a spoon rest off, like, it's just bad. It's just going to warp. It's not great. So I throw a spoon rest on this. After I throw the pot, I take, my rib or my wooden knife or whatever, and as the wheel is spinning, I'll kind of clear off as much of the leftover clay as I can. That just helps it to dry better, because what you're going to do is you're going to leave the pot on here until it pops off. Do not try to force the pot off. I speak from experience. It will end badly. Just leave it until it's dry. Works beautifully for spoon rest, because all I do with the spoon rest is a quick little tidy up of that bottom corner, and away I go. Some other pots, it can be a little challenging. I get frustrated with mugs because it takes a little bit longer for them to pop off the tile than I want it to. Really, they're a little on the dry side when I'm attaching the handles. I have tried attaching the handles while the pot is still on the tile, and I can do it, but it's a little awkward, and then you have to try and trim with the handle already on there. And anyway, it's not ideal. One of the things that I do to kind of help this along is I will cover the pot that's on it in plastic and leave the bottom exposed to the elements. And then I've got wire shelves so the air can get at it from underneath. And so that kind of helps the bisque tile to dry out so that it can pop off before the pot itself gets too dry, if that makes sense. So what I'm saying is there's a knack to this system for sure. And there are other versions of this system that use MDF tiles, and I think there's an aluminum one as well that's out there. I haven't tried any of those, can't speak to them. This is just the one that I bought. It was inexpensive. It does work, but there is a learning curve to it for sure. So those are all of the actual tools that I wanted to talk about. Love all of these. I will put links to all of these in the comments below. But I have a little bit of a bonus one that I actually just discovered. So I've done my first markets this fall, and it's a bit of a process, right? Trying to figure out your setup, and I'm using crates as part of my setup. And what I discovered is that the crates, while they look really great, it's dark inside, right? The light doesn't necessarily get inside. So I've gone through a number of things to try and get some extra light to show off the products that are inside those crates. And as part of that, I went to Canadian Tire and I bought a couple of these. These are, I think, only at Canadian Tire. I think it's the Canva brand, which, if memory serves, is Canadian Tire. Anyway, this has turned out to be much, much, much more useful than I thought. It's good for what I bought it for, which is the markets. It works great. But the super cool thing about this is that it's magnetic. Okay, so it comes with the stand and it comes with a little clip that you could, I guess, screw on to the crate or the wall or whatever, where you want it. And it's also got a clip. So what I have discovered since I finished the markets, and maybe, white isn't the best choice when you work with red clay sometimes, but whatever. What I have discovered is that this little clip is super, super handy in the studio. So I don't know about you, but I've got light in my studio, but it's not as much light or in the right place as I want it. So when I'm throwing, when it's darker outside, or it's either dark or it's gray or whatever, I'm in a sunroom. Like, I've got as much light as you can get, and I still find myself kind of struggling to see what I want to see. So this one with the clip, I stick onto a tripod, the one that I use when I'm filming, when I'm throwing, and shine it directly where I want it on the wheel. It is brilliant. And then the other one I tend to leave on a surface beside me as I'm throwing and angle it this way. And you just tap on and away you go. They last for several hours before they need to be charged. They're charged with a USB cable. Like, seriously, super, super handy. And then when I have them at markets, I'll either take this, or I've used this and just clipped it on the edge of the crate. But, again, I guess I could, actually mount it to the inside of the crate with that other little doohickey if I wanted to. So Canva, Canadian Tire, I think when I bought them, they were $30. So not actually a tool, but super handy. So that's it. Those are my recommendations, or I'm not going to say recommendations. Those are the tools that I love. The tools that I use all the time, the ones that I reach for the most often. Like I was saying earlier, two potters, two very different takes on what the best fan brush is. So everything depends on the kind of pots that you make, what your preferences are, what kind of clay you're throwing with, all that kind of stuff. So please do not take this as a you must have or this is the best one ever. These are the tools that I find useful. And I hope that as I've been talking about them, I've shared enough information with you that you get an idea of whether or not it's something that you would want to try. And hopefully, as we've gone through, you've been oohing and aahing over the things that you would like your partner or spouse or whoever to buy you. And if not, the links are down below, so just email them. Sometimes you have to hit people over the head with the requests before they get it. I know that we say this all the time. You're probably tired of hearing YouTubers say it, but liking and subscribing and sharing the videos really does help. It helps grow the channel. It's what the algorithm feeds on, that and how long you watch. But look, we're all human beings, and it actually takes a fair amount of effort to create these videos, and we enjoy doing it. Well, I do. I don't know why you would do it if you didn't, but it is really nice to know that people are finding the information that you're sharing useful. So I would love it if you shared this video with somebody that you think might enjoy it. I would also really love to know about the tools that you use that you find super handy that I might not have mentioned. So pop those down in the comments below. I'm not sure if you can put a link in a comment, but if you can, link to the product, because, you know, we all have access to different suppliers because we're in different places. And like I say, we all just have our own preferences, and I'm always interested to hear what other potters love using. So thank you very much. Thank you for watching, and have a happy holiday season full of pots that dry perfectly with no S-cracks or warping whatsoever. And if you celebrate Christmas, I hope that you have some awesome pottery stuff underneath the tree on Christmas Day. Thanks for watching.